Morning sunlight cuts through the high windows of the courthouse and spills in golden streaks across the polished wooden benches. The air is thick, heavy with anticipation, as if even the walls hold their breath. Journalists whisper to one another, shuffling papers and adjusting cameras. Occasionally, the faint sound of polished shoes squeaking on the marbled floor resounds. At the heart of it all, Kody sits, his hands clasped tightly on the defense table, knuckles white. He's pale, more so than usual, eyes darting around at the empty courtroom seats and then to the row of wives across from him. Each one shows a different emotion, a different kind of storm brewing quietly beneath composed faces. Christine sits up straight, her folder clutched to her chest as if it were a shield. Every so often, she looks up at Kody, her eyes narrowing slightly, betraying a mix of hurt and determination. Janelle, seated next to her, stares down at her clasped hands, where she twists her wedding ring in small, nearly imperceptible circles. Her shoulders tighten and release repeatedly, like a string being pulled taut and then released. Robyn, ever in a display of calm, now presses her lips into a thin line, jaw tight, fingers resting lightly on the armrest, but shaking slightly beneath the surface. Mary sits a little apart, quiet, almost otherworldly in her composure, yet her eyes are sharp, piercing, full of quiet fury and observation. The courtroom is abuzz with an invisible energy as the bailiff calls it to order. The judge, a figure of authority who outwardly shows calm, leans slightly forward, reviewing his notes. We are here to address matters concerning the Brown family estate and allegations raised within the family structure. Everyone present is expected to speak truthfully, he says, voice steady but carrying a weight that presses down on the room. The words hang in the air, heavy, charged with the kind of tension that can make a person's stomach tighten involuntarily. Christine stands first. The click of her heels echoes in the courtroom, drawing attention to her with each step. She opens her folder, pulls out a small stack of papers, and takes a deep breath. At first, her voice is low, almost hesitant, but an edge in it carries as she begins to speak. I've stayed silent for far too long, she said, her eyes locking with Kody's, but I can't anymore. Secrets have a way of surfacing, and this family is no exception. Kody shifts in his seat. He can feel the weight of her gaze, the intensity of the courtroom watching, waiting. His mind streaks through years of whispered arguments, private confessions, and late-night confrontations he'd hoped would never reach public ears. With each memory pressing against him like the walls of a narrowing tunnel, he swallows hard, trying to steady his racing heart. Christine begins detailing accusations, small at first, subtle hints at emotional neglect and broken promises. But as her testimony deepens, the tension in the room thickens. Robyn's fingers curl tightly around her armrest. Janelle's breath comes in short, quiet bursts. Mary leans forward imperceptibly, her eyes narrowing, sharp and calculating. Every word Christine utters lands with precision, each sentence another ripple in a growing storm. The doors burst open suddenly, and in steps a friend of the family with an envelope clutched in his hand. The courtroom holds its collective breath. The witness walks up and gingerly sets the envelope on the bench in front of the judge. Kody's throat tightens. The letters, the friend explains, contain correspondence and records nobody expected to see today. All eyes move to the judge, who deliberately reaches for the envelope, his expression unreadable but interested. Christine gets up again, walking slowly towards the evidence. The camera, or rather, the imagined gaze of the audience lingers over her hand, shaking ever so slightly as she opens the envelope. Letters, notes, and financial statements intertwined with personal messages that show fissures in family relationships, disputes over money, and whispered betrayals hidden for years lie inside. Each revelation falls like a hammer, echoing across the room. Robyn exhales sharply, the tension in her usually composed body now palpable. Janelle's lips press together as if trying to hold back a flood of emotion. Mary sits silently, but her eyes glint with satisfaction at the unearthing of truths long concealed. Kody's fingers clench on the table, white knuckles betraying the panic he is trying desperately to hide. The judge picks up one letter, reading silently before glancing up at Kody. These records will be reviewed carefully, he states. The room remains still, the tension thick enough to almost touch. Christine returns to her seat, her eyes never leaving Kody's face, her expression one of steely resolve. The air seems heavier now, charged with anticipation for what comes next. A gentle rustling brings all eyes to Mary as she stands up unexpectedly. Speaking softly, yet the courtroom leans in, hanging on to her words. I warned you all, she says, piercing, that concealing the truth would result in consequences. This family can no longer live as if these secrets do not exist. Her words come out quietly, but they have the ring of thunder and shake the room in their quiet authority. Kody opens his mouth to speak but closes it again, caught between wanting to defend himself and knowing that every word might only dig a deeper hole. The wives exchange glances, some weary, some sorrowful, some satisfied. Each has a story, each has grievances, and each has been wronged in ways that are finally coming to light. The envelope slides across the table to the judge, who opens the next set of letters. The camera or the audience's mind focuses on every reaction. The tightening of Robyn's jaw, the slight tremble of Janelle's hands, Christine's unwavering stare, and Mary's quiet smirk. The evidence contains financial discrepancies intertwined with deeply personal messages, exposing loyalties, betrayals, and hidden alliances that will redefine relationships. The doors to the courtroom open once more, and a new witness comes in, a former family employee clutching a binder full of notes and receipts. The room shifts, the tension rises. The judge nods onward, and the witness approaches. Christine exhales slowly, her hands clutching the folder as if getting strength from it. Kody's palms sweat as he shifts in his chair, knowing this could be the testimony that changes everything in this case. The witness begins to detail meetings, private conversations, and events that no one else was aware of. Each revelation lands like a stone dropped into still water, rippling outward, hitting every member of the family in different ways. Robyn's lips tighten. Janelle swallows hard, eyes darting. Christine's voice steadies, but her hands tremble. Mary watches, calculating, knowing that the exposure of these truths will shift power and control in ways no one yet realizes. The session moves forward, each piece of evidence adding weight to the growing tension. The letters, the testimonies, the quiet confrontations, all of it paints a portrait of a family fractured, tested, and exposed. As the first session nears its close, Christine reaches into her folder once more, pulling out a small folded envelope she hesitates over. Her hand trembles slightly as she places it on the judge's bench. Kody's face pales. The first cracks in his composure are visible. The judge picks it up, examining it carefully, deliberately. The room holds its collective breath, knowing that inside this envelope lies the turning point, the moment that could determine the family's fate. The court orders a short recess. The wives leave the room, their faces etched with every emotion: sorrow, anger, anticipation, fear. Kody remains seated, staring at the envelope, the weight of the upcoming revelations weighing down on him. The courtroom sits in silence, the tension lingering like a storm cloud about to burst. The courthouse doors open once more, and the room seems to vibrate with anticipation. It's as though the air is alive with a subtle hum of tension, an unspoken knowledge that the next moments will change everything. Kody sits at the defense table, stiff-shouldered, his jaw clenched. His eyes dance among his wives, each of them carrying their own storm. Christine reaches toward the folder on the table in front of her, calm and steadfast in her determination. Robyn's eyes are sharp, yielding to a vulnerability she rarely displays. Janelle's fingers tap lightly against her knees, a nervous rhythm she can't suppress. Mary, ever observant, leans slightly forward, almost predatory in the quiet acknowledgement that she knows more than she reveals. The bailiff calls the court to order once more, and the voice of the judge cuts through silence as sharp as a blade. "We will continue with testimony from Christine Brown," he states, his eyes scanning around the room. It's a heavy statement, heavy with consequence, heavy with implication, but it is merely the linchpin for what comes next. Kristen rises smoothly, yet with tension threading her move, a stiffness of her shoulders that reveals the turmoil surging in her. She steps forward to the witness stand, her heels clicking softly but firmly against the polished floor. Christine takes a deep breath and, in a soft, almost hesitant voice, begins to read from the letters exposed in the last session. As the weight of her words settles in, her tone becomes stronger, steadier. She describes how Kody had conversations in private with other family members, secretive moments about money and emotional neglect he had carefully kept hidden for so many years. And each one lands like a small hammer, driving invisible cracks deeper into the courtroom air. Robyn visibly flinches with each new revelation. Her exterior is usually unruffled, but her lips press into a tight line and her hands are clenched into fists. Janelle lets out a sharp breath and looks around the room, as if she's not sure where all this drama is going or what to make of it. Mary leans forward, her body taut as she absorbs every word, every inflection, every implication Christine makes. Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his image, so carefully created, beginning to crumble with every word. Christine proceeds to detail a few decisions made with the family finances that, although minor at the time, add up to a web of favoritisms and deceptions when put together. Certain sets of family funds were portioned out to give more financial latitude to some wives than others. Some personal loans and other transactions were conducted without the knowledge of the whole family. The room grows heavier with every word as ripples of whispers spread amongst the onlookers and journalists furiously scribble away. The first bombshell comes when Christine reads a passage suggesting Robyn had set up a private meeting with a business associate, with Kody's knowledge, to interfere with how family funds were managed, what might be construable as both calculated and manipulative. Robyn's eyes widen slightly. She looks over at Kody, whose face whitens more with the recognition that the attention of the courtroom has decidedly shifted to him and his alliances. The judge leans forward, interested, while the gallery en masse holds its breath. The room is quiet as Christine pauses for a second to let the weight of the revelation sink in. She looks around at each wife in turn. One glance for Robyn, the next for Janelle, another for Mary, until she finally rests her gaze on Kody. The hardness in that stare is palpable. These were not isolated incidents. Christine continues, her voice now resolved. These were deliberate choices that have shaped our family, sometimes without our knowledge, sometimes with the intention of controlling outcomes. The camera or the audience's point of view flickers to flashbacks, a filmic device that captures whispered after-dark hallway conversations, surreptitious coffee cup exchanges, and tears in private rooms. The flashbacks are quick but telling, an added layer of emotional context in the courtroom testimony. Each image reinforces the tension, the betrayal, and the complexity of the relationships at stake. Mary suddenly stands, her chair scraping lightly against the floor. She walks to the witness stand, her movements sure and calculated. "I have something to add," she says softly, yet the weight behind her words silences the courtroom. She opens a small folder and begins to present evidence she has collected independently, texts, emails, and photographs that show not only financial discrepancies, but also personal betrayals, secret alliances, and attempts to manipulate Kody's decisions. The room reacts subtly, at first, eyes widening, eyebrows rising, but the implications are enormous. Robyn exhales sharply, her shoulders stiffening as she listens. Janelle bites her lip, visibly shaken. Christine watches with a mixture of satisfaction and apprehension, knowing that Mary's revelations could tip the balance in unpredictable ways. Kody's hands tighten on the table, veins standing out as he struggles to maintain composure. As Mary continues, a recording is presented, a private conversation between Kody and a family friend that hints at prior knowledge of the disputes but a failure to act responsibly. The courtroom reacts immediately. Murmurs ripple through the gallery, and even the judge pauses, listening intently. Kody shifts uncomfortably, his face pale and lips pressed together. The room is a crucible, and he is at its center, weighed down by years of hidden truths now exposed in public. Christine leans forward slightly, her voice calm but cutting. She details moments of emotional neglect, instances when Kody chose to take one wife's side over another, times when he dismissed concerns without acknowledgement, and occasions when his actions undermined the trust of the family unit. Robyn's eyes well up with tears as memories resurface, Janelle's breathing quickens, and Mary smirks faintly, a predator watching the prey unravel. The judge interjects, asking for clarification of specific transactions and personal communications. Christine answers with specific dates and correspondence in a steadfast voice. Mary fills in the gaps, making the story even more damning. Kody opens his mouth to speak, but hesitates, unsure if words could repair the growing chasm between him and his wives. The doors burst open, and another witness enters. A former family employee bearing extensive records of household expenditures, personal loans, and secret accounts. It becomes electric in here, the tension and anticipation from the gallery collectively rising with each new revelation. Every new disclosure seems almost like a time bomb ticking towards some point when the family can no longer pretend that all is well. Evidence from the witness seems to point to some wives perhaps knowing about schemes designed to manipulate finances and influence Kody's decisions, painting a much more intricate picture of complicity and betrayal. Kristen becomes incensed and reads aloud from passages indicating previously undisclosed meetings and conversations. The courtroom appears to shrink as the weight of the tension forces everyone to lean forward, hanging onto each word. Kody's face twists in a mix of disbelief, shame, and fear as he looks at each wife in search of a hint of mercy, of understanding, but finds only a mirrored reflection of betrayal and hurt. Robyn swallows hard to fight back her tears, while Janelle bites her lip to prevent herself from speaking. Mary's expression is unreadable, while her mind calculates the weight of every revelation. The session culminates with Christine producing a final set of letters, personal messages, and financial summaries that unmistakably detail favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation within the family. The judge searches through them, his brow furrowing slightly as he goes over the implications. The gallery holds its silence, every person present enthralled by the playing out drama. Christine returns to her seat, hands slightly shaking as she looks over at Kody. Their eyes connect, and in that moment, a silent acknowledgement passes between them, an acknowledgement that the family may never be as it once was. The session abruptly comes to a close as the judge orders another recess. Whispers fill the hallway as the wives leave the courtroom. Robyn's eyes are shining. Janelle walks with a tight-lipped determination, while Mary is confident, almost triumphant in her posture. Kody sits a moment longer, staring at the floor with his hands clasped tightly together. The weight of the revelations, the confrontation, and the pending future press down on him like never before. The courtroom reconvenes, the air heavier than it has ever been. The sun reaches in with long shadows through the tall windows, slicing across the polished benches, giving cold, almost melodramatic light to the room. Every soul in that room can feel the tension. It's as if one could reach out and touch it. Kody sits at the defense table, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles are white, his jaw clenched, eyes darting nervously between the wives. Each of them carries a storm within, a storm they are ready to unleash. Robyn gets up first. Her usual calm is replaced by a quiver of emotion she can barely conceal. She walks to the witness stand, her heels hitting the marble floor sharply like punctuation marks to what must be chaos in her mind. Reaching the stand, she takes a deep breath to try and steady herself, but a tremble in her hands gives her away. "I can't stay silent anymore," she says in a low, steady voice. "There are things that Kody has done, choices he has made, and alliances he has formed that I can't overlook." The courtroom shifts ever so slightly. Christine leans forward, curious but guarded. Janelle bites her lip, the softest whimper escaping as memories come flooding in. Mary's eyes narrow, her face unreadable and calculating as she takes in every word. Kody swallows hard, trying to keep himself composed, but slowly, the walls of his carefully controlled world are beginning to crack. Robyn talks about emotional abandonment and favoritism, how on nights she didn't matter, wasn't seen or heard, and how often Kody's choice would obviously be made based on another wife's wish or ambition. Her words are precise, gauged, yet laced with an underlying anger that makes every single person in that room shiver. Christine listens intently to each word, nodding subtly at those moments when she acknowledges something. Tears well up in Janelle's eyes, and her breathing becomes shallower, while Mary is still, her cold gaze sharp. The first bit of evidence Robyn presents is a series of handwritten notes Kody had made, personal reminders of promises he'd made and then broke. They are small, almost trivial in appearance, but when read aloud, they reveal the depth of broken trust and favoritism. The judge leans in, eyes scanning the pages, absorbing each detail with an almost palpable weight. The gallery is silent, the spectators holding their breath as each revelation lands like a hammer. Christine rises to her feet, interrupting gently, yet firmly. "Robyn's right. These letters confirm what many of us suspected, but there's more," she says, her voice firm, unwavering. She produces yet another set of documents, emails, and text messages showing secret conversations between Kody and certain family members that further highlight discrepancies in trust, loyalty, and emotional investment. The courtroom gasps en masse, and Kody shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his face pale. Mary gets up suddenly and walks to the stand with quiet confidence, commanding every eye in the room. She places a folder on the stand and begins to speak in a calm, measured tone. "I have been collecting evidence on my own. This isn't just about favoritism or broken promises, it's about the manipulation of trust, the hiding of truth, and the subtle erosion of relationships over years." Her words hang in the air, resonating in the heavy silence of the room. Mary's evidence is detailed, methodical, and devastating. She produces emails, financial statements, and even recordings of conversations that show how decisions were made behind closed doors. Decisions that tilted the family's hierarchy and kept the family off kilter emotionally. With each new piece of evidence, it adds weight to the accusations. Each fact represents a strike against Kody's credibility and character. Robyn's lips quiver as she listens. Janelle's eyes well up with tears, her fingers clutching her folder tightly. Christine's face hardens, part vindication, part grief. The judge interrupts him to ask some questions about the discrepancies in finances. Kody tries to answer, but his voice catches. The words he can find seem inadequate, insufficient. He can't fix this already broken situation. The people in the gallery lean forward. Even the whispers of the spectators seem to ring out louder. A courtroom is always a pressure cooker, and with each revelation, the heat rose a little higher, waiting for an inevitable explosion. Christine continues, describing how Kody would constantly take sides, often against valid concerns or requests for emotional support from one wife or another. She recalls late-night discussions, tearful confrontations, and unspoken resentments that had piled up silently over the years. The audience can almost feel those moments, the frustration, the heartbreak, the quiet desperation of lives lived under the strain of secrecy and favoritism. Robyn breaks down mid-sentence, tears streaming down her face, remembering nights where she felt invisible, unheard, and unimportant. Her voice breaks, the raw emotion breaking the tension in a sudden, humanizing wave. Janelle instinctively reaches out, placing a gentle hand on Robyn's shoulder. Mary watches wordlessly, calculating, weighing every reaction with deliberate unreadability. Kody's face contorts through disbelief, shame, and fear as the cracks in his composure widen by the second. Christine rises again, producing a set of letters and notes she had kept secret, revealing financial manipulations, private conversations, and hidden alliances. The evidence is that some wives had tried to make their influence known with Kody for personal gain, and at times, Kody himself was complicit, sometimes knowingly, sometimes not, in decisions that caused rifts in the family. The judge leans forward, scrutinizing each document carefully while the gallery sits in stunned silence. Things reach a head when a recorded conversation is played, capturing a private discussion between Kody and a trusted friend. In it, Kody admits awareness of the betrayals and manipulations, yet frustration and regret are expressed. The courtroom absorbs every word, the weight of the conversation pressing down on everyone present. Robyn sobs quietly, Janelle's hand shakes slightly as she clutches her folder, and Mary smirks faintly, knowing this recording may shift the balance of power in the courtroom. Throughout the session, tension in the room will oscillate between tense confrontation and quiet reflection. Kristen comes forward to give her account of events. The feelings of betrayal she experienced at the hands of Kody are discussed as much as those caused by the family dynamic that allowed the continuance of favoritism and secrecy. Robyn's testimony interjects at points, reinforcing the emotional depth of Christine's narrative. The interplay of voices combined with the physical evidence presented creates a symphony of tension, heartbreak, and suspense. The judge hesitates, making a sweep of the courtroom with his gaze. "This is a complex matter," he says, voice modulated, yet with more unspoken implications. "We shall continue with testimonies and evidence, but I expect all parties to stay true to the facts." The words are calm, but the underlying tone is that the family stands on the brink of being torn asunder. The final moments of the session get sealed with a shocking revelation. Christine pulls out a small envelope, which she had kept secret. She places it gingerly on the bench in front of the judge. This contains evidence that may redefine family dynamics entirely, she states, firm and without hesitation. Kody's face pales even more, his hands clutching the edge of the table as if he's trying to anchor himself against the storm that is closing in. The courtroom falls silent. Every onlooker, every family member, every journalist, every camera lens is focused on one thing, the envelope. Inside the envelope are truths that could break alliances, expose betrayals, and define the future of the Brown family. Christine sits down slowly, her eyes still locked on Kody in a silent promise that nothing will ever be the same. The judge calls for a recess and the wives file out of the courtroom, whispers of speculation and anticipation trailing behind them. Robyn's face is streaked with tears, her emotions raw and unfiltered. Janelle walks stiffly, trying to maintain composure, while Mary glides past with a faint, knowing smile. Kody remains seated, staring at the bench, the weight of impending revelations pressing down on him. Even as the room empties, the tension lingers like a dense fog. Every glance, every gesture, every small sigh carries the weight of anticipation. Alliances have shifted, secrets have surfaced, and the Brown family stands at the precipice of an emotional storm that threatens to engulf them all. The next session promises not just revelations, but decisions. Decisions that will force each member to confront not only the truth, but also the consequences of years of choices and betrayals. The courthouse feels smaller today, though the room is the same. The sunlight filtering through the tall windows seems colder, harsher, as if even the day itself senses the storm about to unfold. Kody sits at the defense table, his hands resting limply on the polished wood. His eyes are shadowed with anxiety, and his usually composed posture is fraught with tension. Each of the wives sits across from him, their expressions a tapestry of emotions: anticipation, grief, fury, and quiet calculation. Today, Christine promises the truth will leave no corner untouched. Christine gets up first, walking slowly toward the witness stand. Her heels click on the marble floor, each echo a punctuation mark in tension that has almost reached its breaking point. She has in her hands a small envelope, worn at the edges, the contents of which could unravel years of family secrets. Her fingers quiver just enough to betray how heavy what she's going to say will be. She looks at Kody, her eyes unflinching, quietly determined. "I need you all to understand," Christine begins, her voice firm but with an edge of raw emotion, "that some truths cannot remain hidden forever. What I hold here changes everything." She opens the envelope and pulls out a set of letters, photos, and financial documents, carefully arranged and marked with dates. The courtroom goes silent. Even the judge leans forward, eyes narrowing, intrigued by the deliberate care with which Christine handles the evidence. The first piece of evidence is financial in nature. A series of bank statements and emails showing secret transactions, some involving Robyn and others implicating Kody directly. Christine reads aloud the most damning passages detailing how funds were diverted, manipulated, or hidden, creating tension not just between Kody and his wives, but among the wives themselves. Robyn's eyes widen in disbelief. Janelle presses her hands to her face, and Mary leans forward, a faint smirk playing on her lips. Kody exhales sharply, his face pale. The second is far more personal. Christine shares handwritten notes and texts that detail emotional betrayals, moments when Kody had promised support or attention and didn't give it, his favoritism prioritizing one wife's needs over another. She reads aloud excerpts that document hurt, neglect, and heartbreak, her voice clear but heavy with emotion. Robyn's shoulders begin to shake as she listens. Janelle bites her lip, fighting tears. Mary's gaze sharpens, the predator's satisfaction clear. Kody's hands are trembling on the table, and for the first time he cannot hide the flicker of fear in his eyes. In walks a new witness, a former family friend who claims to have been present during private meetings between Kody and several wives to discuss family finances and personal disputes. The friend approaches the stand clutching a folder full of additional evidence. Christine and Mary share a surreptitious glance. Both realize that this testimony may very well push the case into uncharted territory. He begins to recall conversations involving manipulation, secret alliances, and the attempt to control outcomes within the family structure. Every word spoken lands with the force of a stone hurled into still water, sending ripples across the room. Flashbacks of late-night arguments, whispered deals, and emotional confrontations previously only felt privately are projected or imagined through the use of narrative as the witness speaks. These moments of clarity show the weight of the situation and give viewers not only words, but also long-term effects on relationships and trust. Kody squirms uncomfortably, looking from wife to wife, knowing nothing will ever be as it had been. Christine then shows pictures of private moments the family never knew existed. Some depict secret gatherings, others discussions on money or personal matters. Each image has a story to tell, each detail a revelation that heightens the courtroom drama. Robyn gasps audibly. Janelle momentarily turns her head away, doing her best to process what she's seeing. Mary wears an unreadable expression, sharp, calculated, as if every reaction has been pre-considered. The next moment is a turning point. Kristen pulls out a small envelope marked with a recent date. Inside this envelope, she says, her voice dropping to a near whisper that carries across the room, is a confession that none of you were expecting. The courtroom collectively leans in. Kody's face bleaches of color, his hands clutching the edge of the table as he braces himself. Robyn's eyes widen, Janelle holds her breath, and Mary's smirk falters, replaced by curiosity and caution. Slowly, Christine opens the envelope and pulls out one sheet of paper. It's Kody's handwritten confession to knowing about manipulations and failures of judgment in terms of his relationships and financial matters. The reactions are immediate. The gallery whispers, the wives exchange disbelieving glances, and Kody finally loses his composure. His eyes dart around the room as if searching for a way out that doesn't exist. Robyn stands up abruptly, her voice shaking with emotion. "How could you?" she says, confronting Kody directly. "How could you let this happen? How could you let secrets be more important than us, more than the family?" Her words resound within the silent courtroom, an angry, guttural cry of anguish. Janelle reaches out, laying a supportive hand on Robyn's shoulder as tears fall from her own eyes. Christine watches, expression hard, pleased, yet sad. Mary steps forward, her voice calm through the tension, and says, "This confession doesn't just expose the past, but it does show who has been manipulating the truth, who has been complicit, and who has been silent too long. This is the reckoning." The words hang heavy and undeniable in the air, making the moment almost unbearably suspenseful. Kody's face pales, his lips trembling with a realization of the enormity of it all. The judge is firm, yet calmly says, "We will review the confession along with the evidence presented therewith carefully," he says, "but it is clear that this case has reached a critical turning point." With this, the courtroom shifts as if the weight of the moment presses down on everyone in it. The wives exchange tense looks at one another, not sure what the next few minutes would bring, let alone hours or days. Then comes the bombshell. The confession insinuates that there was a clandestine conversation, a secret arrangement between Kody and one of his wives which no one else knew about. The courtroom reacts immediately. Robyn gasps, Janelle freezes, and Mary leans forward, her interest piqued. Kody's eyes widen in incredulity. He hadn't expected this paper to come out, and the implications are enormous. The gallery falls silent, electricity in the air. Christine steps forward, her voice now steady and commanding. "There are no coincidences here. Every letter, every photo, every note has been preserved for a reason. And now we see the truth in its entirety." She looks directly at Kody, her eyes unflinching, her expression resolute. The weight of her gaze upon him is almost a physical thing, pressing upon him with the force of years of pent-up frustration and betrayal. As the session nears its close, Kristen produces a final piece of evidence, a recorded conversation in which Kody admits partial knowledge of the manipulations but downplays their significance. The courtroom falls silent as the recording plays. Every listener leans in, absorbing every word. Robyn sobs softly. Janelle bites her lip. Mary's eyes narrow. Kody sits frozen, staring at the floor, unable to respond. Finally, the judge calls for another recess, a momentary halt in proceedings, sending the wives to leave the room slowly, step by weighted step, while he sits staring at the bench, his hands slightly shaking. The envelope, the letters, the recordings, all of it has shifted the balance irreversibly. The air feels heavier than ever in the courthouse, the silence almost deafening. Even as the room empties, the tension remains, thick as a fog of anticipation and dread. Alliances have shifted, secrets have surfaced, and every member of the Brown family is forced to confront not just the truth, but the consequences of years of hidden choices and betrayals. The next session promises even more revelations, more confrontations, and decisions that could forever alter the family structure. The door to the courthouse swings open. The air inside is electric, thick with tension that is almost palpable. Kody sits at the table, his posture inflexible and circles around his eyes, sunken from sleep loss and the weight of truths revealed. Events from the last session have shaken him. Confessions, letters, recordings, all presented in the courtroom that now feels like a crucible for every decision, every mistake, and every hidden truth. The wives sit opposite him, each bearing their storm, anger, grief, vindication, and unresolved pain. Christine stands, a small pile of documents clutched to her chest. Her steps are deliberate, measured, each heel clicking against the waxed floor, sounding like an ominous warning in the courtroom. "We are here today," She begins, her voice steady, firm, and laced with quiet vehemence, to address the remaining truths that have been hidden and to meet the consequences that can no longer be avoided. She places the documents carefully on the stand, her fingers lingering for a moment, bracing herself for the emotional weight that is to come. Robyn stands next, taking a deep, shuddering breath. Her composure is fragile, but her voice is firm. "I tried to forgive," she says, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I tried to understand, but the betrayals are too deep, too personal to ignore. Every choice, every secret, it all comes back to this moment." She glances at Kody, her gaze sharp and unwavering. Janelle's fingers tremble as she clasps her folder tightly, tears forming at the corners of her eyes. Mary, ever calculating, leans forward slightly, her eyes glinting with both satisfaction and anticipation of the fallout. Christine starts with the first set of evidence, documents showing financial discrepancies, private correspondences, and the documented moments of favoritism and neglect. In her reading from them, her voice rises and falls, her words strategically picked to be most emotionally shocking. Robyn's jaw tightens. Janelle exhales shakily. Mary watches silently, absorbing every detail like a predator observing prey. Kody shifts in his seat, realizing every decision he has made is now being picked apart in public, the past laid bare with ruthless clarity. The courtroom goes silent as Christine starts recalling moments of emotional betrayal, nights when wives were left unheard, ignored, or dismissed, while Kody seemed to have the needs of another met first. It feels like the room shrinks and grows heavier, the force of secrets accrued weighing hard. Robyn's hands shake with the remembrance of these moments as words spill from her lips laced with anguish and frustration. Janelle bit her lip, trying not to cry, while Mary's lips slightly curled, knowing at this point the truth gave her the higher hand in the emotional battle. In walks a court officer with a sealed envelope for Christine. The room is tense. All eyes are on her. She hesitates for a heartbeat before opening it, pulling out a series of letters and photographs that promise to escalate the emotional intensity even further. Kody's face goes white. His hands are on the edge of the table, knuckles white. Robyn sharply inhales, her eyes wide with anticipation, while Janelle looks down, steeling herself. The judge leans forward, intrigued by the possible weight of the new evidence. Christine reads the letters aloud, her voice steady, her emotions running high. The content reveals moments of deceit, secrecy, and manipulation beyond what was generally known. The photos act as verifications of the written words, stealthy conversations, emotional confrontations, and quiet betrayals that no one would have wanted to be caught in public. Robyn lets out a silent sob. Janelle's hand shakes as it tightly clings to her folder, while Mary observes in silence, her eyes calculating with every new exposure that comes forth. Then things get even more heated as a surprise witness is called, a one-time confidant of Kody's, who's there to testify about private conversations and personal interactions with him, which put the family dynamics in an all-new light. The witness steps forward, placing a binder on the stand. "I've kept quiet for years," the witness starts, her voice shaking very faintly, "but the truth cannot stay hidden any longer. What you are about to hear will change everything you thought you knew about this family." The room holds its collective breath as every onlooker bends forward with anticipation. The witness starts to recount moments of secret communication between Kody and some wives, where manipulation, favoritism, and emotional oversights abound. Christine interrupts at timely moments, making sure everything is heard with impact. Each revelation is absorbed by the courtroom, the intensity almost unbearable. Kody's hands slightly shake. His eyes dart from wife to wife, realizing that every past decision, every hidden thought is now under scrutiny. Robyn leaps to her feet, her voice quivering but loud enough to cut through the retention. "How could you let this happen? How could you betray the ones who trusted you the most?" Her words hang in the air, raw and unfiltered. Janelle reaches out to Robyn instinctively, clenching her hand in silent support. Christine watches in silence, a mixture of vindication and sorrow in her eyes. Mary stands tall, eyes fixed upon Kody, the predator now fully aware of her prey's vulnerability. The judge orders a brief recess in which Kody is given some time to collect himself. He reclines back, eyes shut, trying to catch his breath. He realizes that what is to come will not only decide his fate in court, but also the very structure of his family. It is too much to bear. The evidence, testimonies, and emotional confrontations. When the session resumes, Christine introduces as evidence the final and most shocking recorded conversation implicating almost all family members in secret arrangements, hidden alliances, and manipulations that Kody was partially aware of but did nothing to prevent. The recording is played and every word reverberates within the courtroom, crystal clear, cutting through every last shred of illusion of innocence. Robyn is sobbing softly. Janelle's hands are shaking. Mary's eyes gleam with satisfaction at seeing the hidden truth finally come out. And Kody sits frozen, looking blankly at the table, unable to say a word. It feels like the courtroom is suspended in time as the weight of the revelations begins to take their toll. Every glance, every gesture, every emotion increases the volatility in the air. Christine steps forward, calm but firm. The truth has a tendency to come out, and it allows no room for pretense. Every choice, every secret, every betrayal has consequences. The words resound within the silent room, emphasizing the gravity of the family's predicament. Robyn rises, her voice finally found. "I trusted you," she says, voice breaking, "and this is what I get? Betrayal after betrayal, secrets after secrets." Janelle nods in silence, her eyes welling up with tears as Mary sits stoically, her mind taking note of every emotional reaction. Kody's face is white, his eyes darting nervously, his hands clutching the edge of the table. The judge cuts in, reminding them that decorum must be maintained, and though his calm, authoritative air somewhat quiets the emotional tempest in the room, it cannot be completely quelled. Christine, Robyn, and Janelle sit there, emotions raw, while Mary is quiet and calculating. Kody, for the first time, seems truly vulnerable, the mask of control he has held for years, now slipping away completely. As the session draws to a close, Christine gathers her evidence and steps back, allowing the courtroom a moment to absorb the weight of what has been revealed. The judge calls for another recess, signaling a temporary pause in the proceedings. The wives leave the room slowly, each step heavy with emotion, while Kody remains seated, staring at the bench, the enormity of the situation weighing on him. Even as the room empties, the tension lingers. The hallway outside the courtroom is filled with hushed whispers, exchanged glances, and quiet sobs. Alliances have shifted, secrets have been revealed, and the Brown family stands on the precipice of irrevocable change. The next chapter promises not just resolution, but confrontation, closure, and ultimate reckoning. The session ends with one final dramatic moment of suspense. The angle is on Kody's face, his eyes wide and his lips pressed firmly together in a silent acknowledgement that the truth has changed everything. The audience is left in suspension, their hearts pounding and their curiosity insatiable.